All right, hey everybody. Testing out a few things here in addition. Give a few minutes for everybody to filter in. This was impromptu, not scheduled, what have you. So number one, been having trouble with the live streams for the coffee streams on Friday, which we do have one coming this Friday, by the way. It's going to be on bowling pet peeves, so we're going to have a little bit more fun with it than we've had with the last couple. Also, hopefully, I've got the camera figured out. The camera, I think, wants to be closer to my face, but my face doesn't want to be closer to the camera, so that's going to be a delicate balancing act. But I want to test that out. I did, there might have been some fingerprints on it or something that I cleaned off. So, and as people filter in, if you didn't know, which I think by the looks of it, most people know by now, I put out a video called "The Truth About Bowl Reviews Being All, hard hitting and honest and, that kind of thing." But I've done this for a while, and I've been around the block, I guess, so to speak. And there's some things that were irritating me and weighing on me. And the easy route to go for most bowl reviews is to just do what's going to be the easiest to do. Number one, what's going to get the most clicks, what's going to get the most attention with the smallest amount of work. So what we're going to do is, I had a really great comment that was posted. Somebody went into detail, user the Therion, I think is how you pronounce that. Took the time to make a detailed response. I couldn't cover everything in the video, and there's always something that I missed or something that I'm not going to cover. But he presented a very logical, reasonable, I don't know how to explain. The tone of it was very just, okay, well, we're just going to look at the facts. Here's what you said. Here's my thoughts. Whatever else, instead of attacking me or belittling me or whatever. And then I posted a response to which he responded, and we actually had a really productive conversation, which is something that just doesn't happen in bowling. So I thought it would be, he rose several great points I didn't talk about in the video that I really want to cover, and it's going to prompt some other videos that are going to come out too. I am having coffee. Normally I don't. Coffee is just one of those things where I drink it because it tastes good, not necessarily because I need my morning dose of caffeine or I need to be woken up or anything like that. Oh crap! Here we go again. It's my face. I swear it's my face. This camera just has issues. I mean, I can't literally get any closer without like my face being, I don't know. It has auto adjust problems. Waiting on the, yeah, see, it's the coffee cup. See, every time I bring the coffee cup into the frame, it tries to auto adjust. And then when the coffee cup goes, see, we got problems. It's the coffee cup. It just doesn't like the coffee. I am drinking Black Rifle coffee Beyond Black. Most of the time, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's when I raise my hand. But most of the time, I used to be a sugar creamer, whatever, flavored creamer, whatever else, because coffee really is just a vehicle for cream and sugar. But then I'm getting older, and I actually kind of like the taste of actual things that aren't like covered up with a bunch of salt and sugar and whatever other kind of nonsense. So I've started drinking my whiskey straight. I drink my coffee straight until it's Christmas time, and there's peppermint bark creamer. So yeah, people don't drink coffee black. Yeah, I know. So yeah, I'm actually normally on the coffee chats we drink it straight, but I've got peppermint bark creamer, and this is just what we're doing. So, ow. All right, so we're going to get into this. And if you're not watching live, I'm sure that you'll catch this on the back end. But we're going to talk about it so that we don't sit here and ramble about nothing for forever and knock people off of the video here. Yes, that comment and response by you is very encouraging, that people can still discuss things they disagree on, have a civil conversation to come to a common ground solution. That's why I pinned it. Despite him calling me out on several different things, and despite him being right about several different things, that's what the point of the video was for in the first place, to be honest about things. He challenged me on a few things, and he was right on a few things. And then I explained my side of it and said, well, this is what I actually meant. Maybe I didn't communicate it very well, but this is what I meant. And then he came back and was like, oh, well, I can understand that. So that's why I pinned that comment. So yes, we're going to go. If you haven't seen that video, it's probably best to watch that video first, just to see what all went down. Now, if you don't want to spend 30 minutes of your life watching a ginger ramble about bowling stuff, then that's also fine and completely understandable too. So anyway, yeah, out of topic, Wild Streak got discontinued. I'm actually going to mention that. There's several heavy hitters that got discontinued. Astrophysics, Idle, IQ Emerald, Hustle 3TP, Hustle HSB, All Road, and I think that's all of them. But yeah, they discontinued half the catalog. It's like what Schlemmer did last year, the year before, discontinuing a bunch of heavy hitter roto balls. But we survived. I have a feeling we'll pull it off again. Anyway, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to read his comments, and then I'm going to read my reply, and then we're going to kind of talk about a few things, because it did bring up several very interesting points. All right, so he says, I agree with many things you said here. I've been saying it myself for years. Things I don't agree on, though. There's so many bowling balls in the market, not because there is truly a need for them, but marketing and psychological reasons. And that's what I meant. So my reply to him was, that's basically what I said, or what I meant. The amount of balls that are released are due to demand. People will buy the newest, freshest thing, whether they actually need it or not. Now, if we all only bought what we needed, there'd be far fewer companies or businesses out there making, far less money. So there's a lot of people don't always buy what they actually need. There's a lot of, I just want to buy stuff. And especially if you're a regular league bowler that just bowls a league or two a week, you want it as an excuse to get out of the house, to see some friends, to have a couple drinks, and just, chuck something round and heavy at a bunch of weird looking sticks. That's perfectly fine. And if you walk into a pro shop and you say, you know what, I want to have fun doing this. This is why people buy jerseys. It's why they buy accessories. It's why they buy bowls that smell like cherry or whatever. But people just want to have fun when they're doing something. And if they want to go buy a ball because they want to go buy a ball, then the companies are going to it's a supply and demand thing. I mean, it would be ridiculous I was watching actually something on Bill Burr. There was something that popped up about Bill Burr yesterday in my Facebook timeline, and he's freaking hilarious. He's really good in The Mandalorian too, by the way. The couple episodes he's been in, he's a really good actor. But he had a little bit going on about McDonald's. He's like, you know what, when McDonald's started selling salads, that's when they basically took all the blame. And he's like, it's not McDonald's fault that people are fat or whatever. He's like, it's, if people go to a business to buy something, they're going to sell it to them. I mean, that's just the thing. And if people, obviously every time Storm puts out a new ball, and if they get a rush on sales and they get a bunch of people buying them, why would they not, continue to make products and offer products? It's something that doesn't make sense. It's not like they're trying to, and it's also not their fault that they make everything seem so enticing or so nice. I mean, some people complain, well, I don't have enough money to buy all these bowling balls. It's like, well, you don't need all these bowling balls, but the fact that they are making balls that people want to buy and have these conflicts about is kind of a good thing on their part. That means that they're kind of running their business the right way. So yes, the Emerald, sad day. But you know, thankfully enough, we have stuff that off topic here for a second. We have something like the Code Black. Everybody loves it. Then they give us an astrophysics. You know, so they're not just, obviously, if these balls are popular, the Idol, all of these have been used a lot by the pros on tour. I mean, Simo's used the Wild Streak a lot. Everybody uses the Idol a lot. You don't see the Astros so much, but it gets used more than you think it does. And some other stuff, they're not just going to put the axe to something and not replace it with something or try to upgrade it or whatever else. And truth be told, this is what happens with a lot of balls like this, is when they come out and they're popular and they sell a lot, and then stuff like the Idol, the Phase 2, they become really good tournament balls, but they don't necessarily still sell a whole bunch. And so when they have things that are more popular than other things, well, if they're taking up production time making batches of balls that aren't really selling much or aren't really selling very fast, that takes away from being able to keep up with demand for the stuff that is selling. And so at some certain point, even though everybody knows about the Idol, people aren't rushing into pro shops to buy Idols a bunch. I mean, it's one of those where you have it, it becomes a trusted tournament ball. And so you're not just going to drill a new one of them all the time. What you're going to do is you're going to have the one or two that you already like. You're going to take care of them and you're going to use those kind of indefinitely, which doesn't really equal more sales for the company. And so at some point, again, like I said in this video that we're, you know, in the Truth About Ball Reviews video, you know, at some certain point, and I just forgot what I was talking about. So, you know, at some certain point, they have to discontinue stuff and they have to move on. Or people will say, well, I want this. I remember now. People will say like the IQ Tour. Well, I've had an IQ Tour for 4 years. I'm assuming it's discontinued. I say, well, it's still there. You can still go get one. But I want something different. So you want something the same, but you want something different. And this camera just has problems. It's the coffee cup thing. It tries to autofocus every time I raise my hand. So anyhow, so that's off the beaten path, but getting back to it. Something that's, okay, I'll answer this. Something that's tough with the ball reviews is the incentives that certain companies give for people that do the reviews. I throw Radical Deviate in Brunswick, and it's tough to find reviews for that company because my understanding is that Big B doesn't do incentives for reviews like Storm, RG, and Motive does. I've never been a Brunswick staffer, and I don't really talk to other staffers about the details of contracts and whatnot. I can tell you that Storm does give us actually, Brunswick, I think, tries to, I think that might even be written into their contracts. I don't want to get too much into the contract stuff, but obviously every company does want their staffers, if there's not incentives or if it's not specifically written into a contract as a requirement, they want everybody to do reviews and put videos out there because that's kind of how you communicate with people, or how you build your own brand, so to speak, which can help the company out with their brand. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of it stems from my general irritation at that. And it is kind of tough being a staffer that's on the up and up, or that tries to be on the up and up, because it is a lot of time, it is a lot of expense. And like I referenced a few minutes ago, the easiest thing to do is to just put something up there. Or actually, I think I was talking to somebody else about this. But the easiest thing to do is just put something up there and get out of Dodge, because if you actually go whole hog on it, I mean, this is a full-time job for me. I mean, this is full-time job, and yes, I get sent bowling balls for the reviews, but when you do the numbers, I stop doing the numbers because it's not pleasant. But that's the thing, is that if you go onto a website like ballreviews.com, for example, and you go into the Storm forum or the Roto-Grip forum or whatever else, it's not discussions about bowling balls or topics about this ball or that ball or whatever. It's a bunch of staffer reviews that basically all say the same thing. And I've been kind of called on the carpet before for complaining about this, but at the same time, I think that we need to aspire to a higher standard. We can't just, you know, spend 2 minutes rushing through a paragraph and not even go back through and proofread it and spell words right or add punctuation or whatever else and just say literally the same thing that every other. I've even had my own reviews copy pasted before. And they've had to talk to people about that because they'll just go in and they'll find one that they like further up in the chain. They'll just copy it and stick it back down somewhere later. So that's one of the, it's the coffee cup. That's one of the tough things that when it comes to it is that you've got to dig through and you've got to wade through, okay, well, what are the staffers doing because they need to do it and because they're doing it for incentives or they're doing it to brown nose or whatever else. So what's actual real decent stuff where they're trying to honestly review something and give you something productive or helpful or whatever else. What's them trying to brown nose and keep their contract versus what's them actually trying to help you out with something. That can be very tough to figure out. Yes, coffee, peppermint bark creamer, thanks to my lovely wife. Normally I drink it black, but I love peppermint bark, so it is what it is. Anyway, so we're getting to point number 2. So he says, you sometimes do the stuff you criticize here yourself. I've never heard you say anything bad about Storm products, for example, but it's not hard to imagine that they too have products that are not so successful. I understand why you do it, but then don't criticize other staffers for doing the same thing. Well, I have 550 videos up there, and I wouldn't expect everybody to watch every single one of them. But I did tell him, I said, okay, so I used to do stuff like that, just like what we were just talking about. You know, I used to think, okay, well, I've got to promote the products and I've got to talk good about them, because if I don't talk good about them, then they're going to get rid of me and find somebody else who will. And then as we go along, I'm like, well, this isn't really helping anybody. And, you know, then I figure out, well, opinions in ball videos, because everybody disagrees about every ball that's out there. So the opinions are insignificant. And the easiest way to go about it, instead of just saying something's good or something's bad, just describe the ball reaction the best that you can see it. And that's really all you can do, because it doesn't matter. I put out several videos on the Pro Motion and the Wild Streak because I really, really liked them. And they got kind of a mediocre reception. There's not a whole lot of people that like the Pro Motion for some reason. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. And now the Wild Streak is gone because people just kind of slept on it. So I tried to make a bunch of videos on those, talking those up. But if you've seen a lot of my videos, then you'll realize that when we go to talk about stuff like the Timeless, that was kind of, I said I didn't like it. My wife really likes it. She's actually still got that same Timeless from my review that I plugged and redrilled for her. She still has it. She still uses it. She still likes it, and it looks really good for her. Or something like the Halo Vision that I just couldn't throw, or something like the Supersonic that just wasn't ever going to work out in any lifetime for me, either hand, one way or the other. So being that he hasn't seen all the videos, I have talked negatively about some certain balls, but here's the pitfall or the trap with that, is that if I say that I don't like something, even if I say, well, somebody else will like it, people are automatically just going to stop there and say, well, Luke said he didn't like this ball, so I'm not going anywhere near it. Whether or not I don't like the ball, because like the Halo Vision, hooked too much, just could never use it. I really like the Proton Physics. I've taken it out several times. It's too strong. I'm just not able to use it on the vast majority of conditions. And to continue to keep it in the bag on the off chance at some tournament that I'll be able to use it, just takes out some other ball that I think I'm going to get heavier use out of. So yes, I hated the Fever pitch. I did. The pitch purple, I've said here in recent, it both wants to hook too much and not hook enough to begin with. But some people, like one of my buddies that I've got in the, my buddy Carlos that just moved to Pennsylvania, it looks ridiculously amazing for him. So obviously my opinion about a ball doesn't matter one way or the other. But if I say I really like this ball, more people are going to buy it. And if I say, well, if I don't really like this ball, less people are going to buy it just because of that. They're going to leave out ball reaction period, whether or not it should, maybe might work for them. We also have a going thing about the Sonic. one of the guys in our Discord server really likes the Sonic, and it did end up working out. It looked really good on the video for me and Angel, and then when it kind of settled in, it was kind of too early and smooth, and so it's become a running joke too. He really likes it. I don't like it, and it's more of a running joke now than because obviously it works very well for him. Didn't end up working out for us. The Supersonic never worked out for me at any point in time. But one of our staffers, Austin Bolds, down in Wichita, you can see him on that ball fits his style of game. He gets it so clean through the front part of the lane that he really needs something that's going to dig in and grind to a halt in the mid lane, and then he can control the back end motion with what he's doing with his hands. So he really likes stuff like the Supersonic and the Halo Vision and that kind of stuff, and I just don't. So that's why opinion is really irrelevant in videos. And so what he said is, yes, I used to do a lot of that stuff. I've gradually kind of worked my way out of it. And that's kind of basically what I said. Now I said, but what I don't do and what I haven't done is the whole, it hits like a truck and it's a must have in the bag and it's going to be in my tournament bag for a long time. And this one's special or any other such nonsense. But again, I can't use the proton physics much, but I wish I could because I really like it. And it does look good in the video, and Angel's actually taken hers out a couple times. She surprisingly likes the way it rolls. Maybe she can't normally throw stuff that's that strong, but this one, the cover stock somehow works out. I don't know how it gets down the lane so easily is really the thing. Now, obviously it's strong, and so it's going to rev up, but it doesn't go crazy on the back end. But it is, one thing about it, it is surprisingly clean up front for a ball that hooks that much. So she's actually able to use it more. And again, I like it, but I can't realistically throw it a whole lot. One that has been getting a whole lot of love from everybody is the RSTX1. It's basically Roto's version of the physics. And it's actually a little bit smoother, more controllable for me than the physics. The physics has a little bit more torque, it feels like, down lane. And some people would disagree with that too. Some people would say, well, it's actually more dynamic for me than the physics. Great, fine. There's a lot of variables in bowling. And so you just have to be, that's when you have to apply your own experience at some certain point, because there's so many variables in the game of bowling that you can't just lock things down mathematically. And I'll actually talk about that here in a minute. His next point, number 3, you said that if someone doesn't understand how surface is going to change the motion, then showing it in a video isn't going to help either. What? This is exactly what's going to make people understand, seeing and explaining as they watch it. You don't have to experience it firsthand at all to be able to understand it. It's just that it's rarely explained for the average bowler. That's perfectly fair. And even when I was recording the video, I'm like, well, it does kind of sound like I'm saying that if you don't understand it, I'm not going to show it because it's an easy concept. So that's actually, there's a video that's going to come from this, believe it or not. Now, the point that I was trying to make, though, is that there's plenty of videos out there on surface. This is my response to it. There's plenty of videos out there on surface. I have several of my own. What I meant was the idea that I needed to show every single ball out there at several different surfaces, because surprisingly enough, there are plenty of people that seem to think that surface will affect different balls differently. Surface is one of the very few things in bowling that you can take a more mathematical approach to, because it is something that the rougher you make the ball, the earlier, smoother, and stronger it's going to be. The more shine you put on it, the weaker, longer, and sharper it's going to be. That's one of the few things in bowling that you can actually count on, but there's a whole bunch of nuances in there, and another video that's going to come today out of that, because he had a really ridiculously good point that just I had completely forgotten about, or just, it's one of those things that I try not to just assume that everybody watching knows what I know, but if I oversimplify things, then people are going to get in the comments and say, well, what about this? And did you think about this? And it's like, well, yes, but I didn't want to talk over people's heads. And then as soon as I talk over people's heads, it's like, well, I'm new and I don't understand a word of what you said. So it's just really tough to go back and forth. But again, these are, surface is a universal concept. And so what I more was referencing, is that I can't say or show everything about everything in every single video. I can't teach you how to bowl. I can't explain layouts. I can't Explain surface, show it at every different surface. I can't explain lane conditions. I can't do that all in one video. And that's what a lot of people, well, can I see this at several different surfaces, or how does it react on Cheetah, or how does it react on Autobahn, or how does it react on this? And it's like, well, there's just too much. I can't make this video for everything. And some things you just have to watch tutorial videos or instructional videos, or something like that. And let me see, where did I reference? Okay, so I said, once again, there's several videos out there showing what surface does to a ball, just like there's instructional videos out there for literally everything. I can't pack. I said it's like making a video showing someone how to make a certain food recipe or play a certain song, and also additionally teaching someone how to cook or play that instrument in every single video. That's what I meant. I didn't communicate that well, but that's actually what I meant. I said I can't pack everything about ball reaction and surface and layouts into every single video. That's why separate videos exist for detailing such things. So if you learn about layouts and you learn about surfaces, what's going to be missing in these videos, because I can't drill 8 of every ball. I can't bullet 10 different centers on 20 different patterns and show you a surface tutorial for every single ball. At some certain point, you have to be like, well, what's the phase 3 look like at 2000 versus what the trend looks like at 2000? It's like, well, look at the delta between them with shine on them, and then just imagine that earlier and smoother. And bowling is one of those things that there's so few things about it that you can mathematically lock down. And my grander point is that there's a lot of people, finishing with this line here, it's like people do want to try and see things in absolutes and make it as mathematical as possible, because a lot of bowling concepts are hard to understand. The learning curve is really steep, and you have no idea how many people want me to tell them X ball and X layout and X surface for X condition. It doesn't work like that, but a lot of people either think it works like that or they want it to work like that because it's so hard to understand. So that was more my grander point, is that at some certain points you have to watch certain tutorials. I have to make a certain number of assumptions when I make a video, so that it doesn't end up being 30 minutes long for a review trying to explain layout theory and the condition that I'm on and the surface that I'm on and whatever else. You have to come into it with a certain amount of knowledge, and there are plenty of tutorial videos out there. There's plenty of stuff. So like if you're going to watch a video on how to make a certain recipe and they say, okay, saute the mushrooms, if you don't know how to saute mushrooms, or you don't know how to make a certain sauce, or you don't know how to do this, criticizing them for saying, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, it's like, well, I'm trying to show you how to make a recipe. You do have to have some certain cooking skills to begin with. And for that, there's this video. I do reference people to the Storm pin buffer layout system videos. There's a trilogy. Alex Hoskins did a ridiculously great job with those videos, with the graphics and explaining them in depth. And if you want to understand layouts, there's no better way than to go watch those videos. There are plenty of surface tutorials out there too that explains how surface on a ball works. And so there's just a certain amount of things that for me to enable, in order for me to keep a ball review, for example, to 5 minutes or something like that, you need to understand a certain level of things coming in. And it's just unfortunately the way it is, but that's what I meant. I didn't really communicate it that well, and he pointed it out. I replied, and he said, okay, so we agree on that then. Now, the point number 5 that he made is actually brilliant, and I'm going to make a video about that, because he said, okay, so if a staffer says he threw a ball at 2,000, but it was 4,000, yes, he deserved to be slammed. But if you are not sure you got to 2,000, then don't say 2,000. Say, I had this ball out of box polished. I hit it with X pad for Y seconds, or with Z method. This is completely brilliant. And this is something that a lot of people don't do, or a lot of people don't say, or a lot of people don't reference, because I did, because I did reference this in the video. And I said, well, maybe if I take my trend to 2,000 at this certain center on this certain pattern, and somebody goes and takes their trend to 2,000 and they don't get the same result, maybe we use different pads or different methods or whatever else. Very seldom do people talk about the processes that you go through for different surfaces. And so I'm going to try to, today or tomorrow or whatever, to make a video about that, showing the different variables or the different surface results that you can end up with by using a new pad, an old pad, doing it by hand on a spinner with water, creating undergrit for certain levels of polish. Undergrit is actually something that doesn't get talked about a lot. If you, for example, take a ball to 1,000 grit and then you apply polish on top of it versus taking a ball to 3,000 grit and applying polish on top of it, you're going to get different results. The polish on the undergrit is to give you a little bit of traction, because if you just have a mirror shine on it, like when they come out of the factory, they're going to glide too much. They're going to hydroplane too much. They're not going to get any type of traction, and it's going to make them flippy off the end of the pattern. If you do something like an undergrit, like 1,000 and polish on top of it, which is what I like to do, it gives you that little bit of traction. The polish helps get you down the lane, but there's enough traction there without going full polish or, full surface. It kind of gives you that nice little blend. And instead of going something like 3,000, just a flat 3,000, the polish is going to help it get down the lane a little bit, but the undergrit, the rougher undergrit, is going to give you just that little bit of traction to get the ball started, to get it to help blend out the back ends, but still create a decent amount of shape without going a hard surface one way or the other. And there is a rather huge difference between using a TrueCut pad versus Abralon, or using a new one versus an old one, or doing it by hand, or doing it on a spinner with water. I mean, most of the time we resurface stuff on a spinner with water, or on a Haas resurfacing machine, or something like that. But if I take a fresh 2,000 pad and surface a ball by hand, it's going to be a whole lot rougher than if I add water and put it on a spinner. And so all surface is not created equal. And so, yeah, if somebody said, well, just hit it with 2,000, there's so much, again, like bowling, there's so many variables just within saying take it to 2,000, and those don't often get covered. So I can say on my Wild Streak surface tutorial video, I can say, well, I took it, this one's at 4,000, this one's at 3,000, this one's at 2,000. And I think I said, well, I did it by hand and for, 15 seconds each side or something like that. But that was actually something really brilliant. I said it without realizing that I said it. And he pointed out and said, well, you need to talk about this more, because nobody talks about this. They just say 2,000 or 3,000. It's like, if you're not sure you got to 2,000, then don't say 2,000. Jayhawk Bowling Supply also has a surface scanner. And most of the time, when you use a pad on it, it doesn't get to the pad is a certain grit. So a pad is a 2,000 pad, but if you take it to 2,000 by hand or use water or whatever else, it's not going to end up specifically at 2,000. It's just you use that pad to get this certain result, not that does actually get the ball to 2,000 grit. So, and also there's several times where you might get a ball out of a box, and I think with my All-Road, it was supposed to come at, or with certain balls, it's like people get them out of the box. It's like, well, this isn't, like my Pitch Purple was supposed to come at 1,000. It was closer to 3,000 or 4,000. My All-Road was supposed to come at 3,000 or 4,000. It was super, super chalky out of the box. But depending on how old the surfacing pads are, when they resurface them, they get them all finished and ship them out. Depending on how new their pads are and where that ball was in that run of that pad, or the lifespan of that pad, it could be rougher, it could be smoother. So there's all kinds of different variables, and that's why a lot of people just, put their own surface on a ball before they even put holes in it. So a lot of very, very different and interesting things going on with that. So that was an amazing point that just hadn't clicked for me before, because that's one of those things that I understand. It's like, okay, well, I know that there's a big difference. Well, when I go to do something, do I want to do an old 2,000 pad by hand? Do I want to do an old 2,000 pad with water on the spinner? Do I want to do a new pad by hand, or whatever? All kinds of different mixtures of things. And then I just will say, okay, well, I took it to 2,000. Well, but I myself went through all these different processes and all these different thoughts before I even did it to begin with. And then I just say, well, I took it to 2,000, like an idiot. So that was an amazing point. All right, so the board box point that I made about, well, it can hit certain boards, and the speed can be off, or the rev rate can be off, or whatever else. He says, how do you know this player's speed was a bit up or down? Did you actually go frame by frame on all those videos? No. And basically, since only 2 guys used board box, and one of them said he hadn't calibrated it properly, so no, it wasn't the viewer's inability to be observant. Yes and no. This is one that we kind of disagree on, but then when I replied to him, he kind of said, okay, let me see what. Okay, and so yeah, we did have a bigger conversation about that. And so I said, well, number one, I have a very good eye. I have the best eyesight that they can test. I know whether it's 2010 or 28 or something like that, but I have ridiculously great vision. And something that I've also mentioned on my last coffee chat is because I've had so many mechanical problems, I've had to develop a really good eye for ball reaction and what I'm doing wrong, and to pick up on stuff, because if I can't do all that stuff, I'm at such a physical disadvantage that if I don't know what I'm doing on this side of the foul line, or off the approach or off the foul, off the approach, basically. I don't know why I keep wanting to say foul line. So, if I don't have a great eye for ball reaction, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to be screwed. And the very fact that I was able to average 230 or whatever, throwing it as physically bad as I threw it, really meant it was frustrating, because I would look at somebody else that throws it great and think, well, God, if I could throw it like them, I'd average 250. But if I did, I probably wouldn't have learned what I learned. And so now going lefty, if I'm able to apply all that stuff and actually have the physical ability to do stuff, here in a couple of years, I might actually be able to average 240 or something. So, but, I can tell off somebody's hands, it's like, oh, they caught that a little bit, or, oh, they elbowed that, or, oh, they did this, and all that little minutia, all that small, tiny stuff that can cause such big problems on lane, even though the boxes said, well, you hit this board here and you hit this board here, that can cause problems. Now, one thing that is tough for the boxes, especially the one at the arrows, not so much the break point, because the ball is going to be on a much straighter path by the time it gets to the break point, and it's going to be hooking and starting to straighten out, or starting to go the other direction, depending on how much angle you have on the one at the arrows. And it's also really hard to tell exactly where that laser is, because when setting them up to begin with, I'll throw the ball, I'll watch it go over the board, I'll see it on video, and then I'm like, and then the box shows something else. And so I'll go down there and calibrate it, and I'm like, okay, well, it's actually showing the right board, but telling at what distance it's reading it is really tough to do on video. It's easier to do in person and say, oh, okay, well, it's actually reading it it's actually where the laser is, or where the box is at, is actually a little bit further down lane than it looks like on video, or it's actually a little bit closer than it looks like on video. And so they're very hard to set up, because they are ridiculously accurate. He did say, he's like, well, I don't know if they're not, terribly accurate, or if there's a problem with them or whatever else. But no, it's actually completely the opposite. They are ridiculously accurate, to the point that it's kind of hard to set them up, because they're so sensitive that just adjusting them one way or the other can change something or throw something off. And so when you put one at the arrows, you kind of have to have, they're a whole lot better for a coach than actually to see on video. So if you have them in person as a coach, and the coach can be right there standing on top of the box and watching what happens and seeing the same thing, it's a whole lot more helpful than it is on video. And I think on a video, it tends to just, again, reinforce the idea. Well, I don't know how many times I've heard people say, well, God, even teammates in league or something or else, it's like, well, God, I hit my mark. It's like, yeah, but you also threw it super hard, or you didn't catch that when you dumped there. Oh, I did? It's like, yeah, I mean, it came off your hand super fast. So even though you hit what you were aiming at, there were 4 or 5 other things that were completely off. So, and some of what he says it's not about vision only, it's also about what the brain decodes from what the eyes see. Yes, perspective is a big thing. I understand being able to see a different release from video, but speed is much harder. Speed is definitely harder, because there's other things, and especially, this is something I've mentioned to Chad McLean before. And I said, why is it that solid color balls have a much rounder reaction shape than, multicolored balls? Because it just looks like, if you take things like the ProMotion and the Idol and the IQ Tour Solid, something even like the IQ Emerald, which is two-tone, but it's very similar colors, those balls look like they're just this round continuous arc down the lane, but you take something like an Axiom and it doesn't quite look like that because it's more multicolored. Or if you take something like even an astrophysics looks pretty round, but it's a few different colors. So when you have something that are more different colors, it looks like they're more hook set, or there's more definition to them than just this round continuous motion. He's like, well, I honestly think it could be the colors, because there's not a whole lot of stuff swirling around to distract your eye. The more solid color balls, I think, or more tournament or professional bowlers like to use, because it's not so distracting. It's a solid color ball. They can read what's going on with it easier. And so it's not that they're rounder shaping than other balls. I think an Idol is just as round shaping as an Axiom is, but depending on the color swirling, it can affect, again, how your brain decodes what your eyes see. So that's another great point that he made. It's like, because most ball video reviews don't even show the approach of the player to have a reference to see if their body moved faster. Even speed guns can't measure small speed differences, so I doubt even trained eye can. Fair point. Also, don't forget it's a video. A viewer can go frame by frame and see whether the board box got it right or not. They don't need to be able to see the execution, which is why the board box gave those numbers. So yeah, I mean, those are all very fair points. And again, it's difficult to see on video. So that's the problem. That's more or less the problem I have with them, why I haven't been using them in videos recently, because I'll go back and watch. And that's why I made my second board box video, the second or third one, that said, okay, well, you see me throwing shots that are crossing the same boards on these shots, but I did something totally different. And if you're just watching the box seeing, okay, if the reviewer lets the ball go and you're watching, okay, it hit this board at the arrows, it hit this board at the break point, and then it struck. And so if I hit this board at the break, or the arrows, and this board at the break point, it's going to strike for me too. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Or if they see, well, you hit the same marks, but the ball did something completely different on this ball than the last, it must be tearing the lanes up too fast, or it must not be very consistent, or whatever else. And that's what I was saying. It was like, well, they could have completely missed something else that you didn't even see or pay attention to, or anything else. So that's more what I was meaning with that, is that sometimes people tend to focus too much on one thing or the other and try to lock it down and try to make it more mathematical than it actually is. We're getting blurry again, but it's just my face. So, and then he did say something, the last one is about, let me see, let me go back up. 7. Basically, on the second part of this video, you're just slamming other people's reviews, accusing them of confusing the public, except your own reviews, which are simple and confuse no one. That's a fair point too, because I didn't mean necessarily to do that, but in a rare example of something, I do think that I do it better. I try not to be, my mom calls my dad Pollyanna because he gets along with everybody. He doesn't ever want anybody to be upset. He doesn't ever want any conflict. And I got a lot of that too. Now, I might think things internally, but it's so much easier to just get along with people. And I try to always give people the benefit of the doubt, because I might misunderstand them. They might misunderstand me. And so I don't know how many times where I've tried to be a little bit more, assertive, I guess, and have thrown something back in somebody's face, only to realize that they just misunderstood something I said. And I'm like, oh, well, or I misunderstood something they said. And I'm like, okay, well, this is why I don't do this. Now I feel like an idiot, because if I'd have just stopped and thought, okay, well, maybe they meant this, maybe they said this wrong, or maybe they used this wrong word, or maybe I'm understanding it different, or maybe I'm just not understanding it at all. And if I just slow my roll and think, okay, well, this person's not actually trying to piss me off. They're not actually trying to upset me. They're not actually trying to make me mad. And so if they just said something and it happened to make me mad, I need to stop and slow down and process this and think through it first. So my response to him was that I referenced this because I have done it myself. And we've talked about this before. I said I used to do it myself because I thought that's just what you were supposed to do. I watched all these other reviewers and I'm like, well, I don't really agree with this, but I don't want to lose my contract. I want to make everybody happy. I don't want to get in trouble for bad mouthing a ball or something like that. And then I said, I only reference this because I've done it myself. Even I started showing layout photos in my videos because I really got sick of answering individual questions or people saying, well, where does it put the fingers? I'm like, it doesn't matter where it puts the fingers. It doesn't matter where the fingers are at. Layout photos in ball videos are stupid, but I do it myself because it's easier to put it up there. And because some people even said, you know, I'm just curious where that actually puts the fingers for you. People that understand about layouts, they know what I'm talking about. They get the numbers that I put up there, and they just are curious what it looks like for me versus what it looks like for them. Again, it's another training tool or a training method. But on the flip side, there's several times where somebody will put something that's like, well, I took this ball into my pro shop and they measured my axis point, and then they told me that they gave me the same layout that you have, but my pin's over here and your pin's here. I think they screwed up. No, they didn't screw up. They actually did it well, because your positive axis point, the way you throw your positive axis point is a different place than mine is. The way you throw the ball is different from mine. So why would they put the fingers in exactly the same place if we both throw the ball differently? So that's the point I was trying to get at with my video yesterday on the importance of knowing your positive axis point. But back to the topic, I said yes. In a lot of cases, it's a lot easier and a lot less work to just give people what they want to hear or give it to them in a way that they want to hear than continually fighting uphill or upstream. I would like to make all kinds of different videos, and I like to show different surfaces, and I like to do so much, but I already have a full-time job. I travel full-time for work. I am actually, I'm at home for a couple months. We're at home for a couple months out of the year, and then February through November, I will be out on the road traveling 4 days a week. But then when I get back, after writing reviews and answering questions and whatever else in the hotel room, after I've gotten done with my 10-hour shift of mountain goating over bridges, then I come back and put a couple hours into YouTube. And then when I get home, we have league Thursday night, have league Friday night. We have a tournament that we run every other Friday night after league that keeps us up until 1 or 2 o'clock Saturday morning. Then if we're not helping to run tournaments on Saturday or Sunday, I'm also on the local board here. We help out with a bunch of different things. We bowl tournaments, or I'm making videos. And so it's a lot of work to both have one full-time job and then have the other full-time job. And then, I'm gone all week at my job, and then I work all weekend on bowling stuff. And there's a whole lot of stuff that gets lost in between. Now, thankfully, we got rid of one kid. Some idiot from Pennsylvania signed up to be responsible for that one. She's great. I'm just being funny. Anybody with kids will understand that, it's great when you have them, and it's kind of interesting that I never wanted kids, and it was frustrating dealing with them, but kids are great and they teach you a bunch of things. And my daughter got married, our daughter got married a couple weeks ago. So kudos, we'll see him in a couple weeks. And then the other kid he's a senior in high school, so he's going to be graduating in a couple months, and he's got a job and he's got friends and he's got his own thing that he does. And so it's just me and the wife. But then we also have we have 3 dogs, and we have the rescue stuff that we try to help out with and whatever else. So we're in a little bit over our heads, and it's crazy. And so all this extra stuff that I want to do on ball videos or that I want to show, I just get home, I'm like, you know what, I want to sit down. I just want to sit down and watch The Mandalorian. That's what I want to do. So sometimes, a lot of the time, especially when people don't respond with this kind of an attitude or with this kind of logic or with this kind of, posting something that's basically open for debate or discussion. He brought several good points to me in a very logical and reasonable way. That doesn't happen in the bowling industry. And then when I replied to him and explained all these things, then he said, oh, cool, thanks for pinning, thanks for the response. Okay, so we do think the same thing on this. We do think the same thing on this. We might still disagree on this, or this might still be an issue, but a reasonable conversation actually happened in the bowling world. I know it's a crazy thing to think, but yes, And then the last, so so yes, what I did respond to him after that long-winded rambling. So my last line is, yes, I am criticizing some other channels. Yes, I do believe that I do a better job than most, and that's not something that sounds cocky. It sounds arrogant. It sounds like I'm attacking other people, and that's something that we don't really want to do. But I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there, mostly because it's easier to just go that specific direction rather than arguing with people who seem to still think that the pin to CD distance or measurement makes a difference. When I'm going to spend several $100s on my overseas stuff that I've got a bad problem for, I'll tell them, it's like, okay, well, if you've got 5 send distance, especially on symmetric balls, it's like if you've got like a 1.5-inch pin or like a 5-inch pin or something that you think that you're going to have trouble selling, send it to me, because I know it doesn't matter. I mean, it literally doesn't matter anymore. But if somebody sees something with a 1.5-inch pin to CG, they're, oh my God, that's a super short pin. I'm going to have to drill it differently to. No, you're not. I've got super short pins, I've got super long pins, and so it's like, I don't care. I know it doesn't matter, but if you think you're going to have trouble selling this one, just send it to me, because I know it doesn't matter. But it's so hard fighting against that, because somebody will inevitably, I'll put a picture of my layout on the screen, and somebody, oh my God, that's a super long pin. Did you have to, what does that do to the ball? Absolutely nothing. It does nothing. But it's easier to just show them the picture and just hope that I get, and Storm usually sends me some pretty primo specs. Normally it's 15.3, 15.4 on the weight, about 2.5 to 3 ounces of top weight, and the pin distance is always 3 to 4. In very rare, now if a ball's been out for a while, now if they're sending me the seed balls for the reviews, I always get the primo specs. Now if it's been a couple years, or I got an Idol Pro with a 4.5-inch pin, again, don't care. But that's another one after it's been out for a while. So, but there's really no reason for them to even put pin length on the box anymore, unless it's a Blem or something. But they still do it because it's easier to do that than to just fight against the prevailing thought. It's easier to just do that. And if they still tell us, if you want to request a certain pin distance, just put it in the notes of your order and we'll take care of it. It doesn't matter, but some people think it does, and instead of continually trying to fight against it and arguing with people, and then you'll have people that said, well, God, you do this and you're on with the company and you don't even know what this does to your bowling ball. I'm definitely not listening to you. It's like, well, no, you're the one that's stuck in 1995. I'm sorry. And I tend to kind of back down from that stuff. I don't really want to say, okay, well, enjoy 1995. It was a great year 25 years ago. Thanks for playing. And I don't want to be that type of person. I really appreciate people like Bill Burr, who just doesn't give a crap what anybody thinks, but at the same time, you can turn some people off that over a miscommunication. That's what I don't want to do. I would rather slow roll it and just swallow the frustration and try to explain it or try to come to an understanding with somebody. And it sucks a whole lot more out of me than it does out of them, because most of the time they're still stubborn about it. And it's just like, well, whatever. And nothing ever gets accomplished. And anyway, the last line he put in here is like, basically, it's number 8. You also mock clickbait or drama titles, and this video has one. Tongue face, or whatever that is. And I said, I actually did call it out specifically in the video, but I wouldn't expect somebody to watch all 30 minutes of the video or pay attention to absolutely every single word that I said. But I did reference this in the video. I said, people do a lot of clickbaity titles, and oh my God, is the proton physics stronger than the UFO or something like that? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, I mean, just like the thumbnail for this video, I wanted views. I wanted people to watch it. And so I made my own clickbaity, stupid looking thumbnail with a dramatic or hypey title just to get people to watch the video, because I thought it was important. So anyway, so I pinned the comment. We had a great discussion. He added a few more points to stuff, and yeah, so it was a great discussion. I did pin that comment on my channel, so if you want to see more concisely everything that we talked about, instead of watching a 55-minute video that this one is now to see all of what we talked about, I did pin it, that comment chain, on my Truth About Ball Review Videos video. So if you want to get a very concise and a whole lot the shorter version, even though we both typed a bunch of paragraphs. Anyway, thanks, James, for keeping track of the comment section, because I was completely ignoring it. Wait, hi, Meestal. Hi, baby Meestal. Hi. Can you see the peoples? You see the peoples? I know. You're probably ready to go back outside again, aren't you? Yes, I know. I know. Hi, Meestals. Yep. This is rescue dog number 1. This is Mistletoe. So we are going to have, please remember, on Saturday, James and I are going to recap all the releases this year. I still haven't talked. I need to come up with my list, because there's some good ones, and there's stuff I need to talk to him about to prep for that one. But we are still going to have our coffee chat on Friday. Once again, we're going to talk about bowling pet peeves and have a little bit more fun with it. Saturday, it is up on the channel. The live stream is already scheduled. We're doing a fundraiser for our local dog rescue again. If you've been here with me for a while, or if you remember back in May, we did one for Angel's birthday this time of the year. And I've got all the information in the description. I've got links to send the money to. Please only PayPal or Venmo. If you send it through YouTube takes a certain percentage of that. It's like I get 70 or 75% of whatever comes through on the super chat. So we want to make sure that everything gets to the rescue. And also, every $10 you donate is an entry towards things that we have to give away. We have some signed pins from Tom Hess and Brad Miller. We have some bowling balls, some bowling bags, some bowling merchandise, some of my, the Heckin' Urethane. I think a Heckin' Urethane shirt is going to be one of them. And we are taking donations now. This is a rough time of year for the rescues. People buy puppies for either their family or for their kids for Christmas, and then they're like 2 weeks later, it's like, oh crap, what did I get myself into? And so a lot of them show back up at shelters and rescues and whatever else. And so January, around Christmas, January, is a pretty rough time on the rescue. And so we're doing another kind of fundraiser for them on Saturday night, the 19th. 7 p.m. Probably going to have to change it to 8 because we have a tournament that day, and I don't think that we're going to be able to swing getting back and getting the stream on by 7. We will shut donations off at 9 p.m. Central that night and then draw for them live. You do not have to be there when you send donations. Please send that they're for the fundraiser. Please only PayPal or Venmo. Add an email address. I think, if it's a different email address, I think it should come through on PayPal or Venmo what your email address actually is that you sent it from. But if you add an email address that we can contact you, through once, if your name is drawn, so that we can contact you and let you know about that. I think I'm probably going to go on ahead and shut it off here instead of rambling forever. Thanks once again to James, aka Shimwrecker, for managing the chat and posting all those links. And Storm has a bunch of good stuff. They don't just make their 5, 6, 7 ways videos when the balls come out. Again, like the one that Alex Hoskins tested 4 different phase 2s, and then their pin buffer layout system trilogy is ridiculous, and they do have some videos on Surface, I believe. So they do have some really, really great technical videos that they have, the brains and the minds and the experience and the resources to do a way better job than I could ever think of doing. So they have a lot of great stuff on that channel if you want to go check that out. But thanks again to the Therion. If you're watching this, I really appreciated our discussion. Once again, that conversation is pinned because it's all about honesty. He called me out on a few things, and I explained a few things, and we came to an agreement. He has a couple great points, and actually a video that I'm going to go work on right now about the differences in applying Surface to a ball and the different ways that you can come out at 2000 grit. So thanks everybody for watching. Once again, there's so many variables in the game of bowling that some stuff you just have to experience yourself. Sometimes you just have to cook. I mean, it's like watching a cooking video and then cooking the recipe yourself. you know, there's always going to be small differences in what it looks like, what you think what they're describing as how it tastes, and what it actually tastes like for you. And it's definitely not like bowling's definitely not like golf at all. So it's the easiest way to this easiest kind of corresponding thing to explain certain concepts. But golf, you can lock down a whole lot more mathematically than bowling, and there's still a bunch of stuff that people don't understand in golf either. You can see the tilt of the green, but depending on what, you know, type of grass they use and the way it's mowed or the way it's angled or whatever, the way that it's laying, or there's all kinds of different stuff that you can get into with that. So thanks everybody. I'm going to go let the puppers out. Measles. If I can get the pupper to come in and say bye. Come here, baby. Hi, baby. Yes, I know. Measles was our first rescue dog. And she's a German Shepherd cattle dog Papillon mix, but she looks like a German Shepherd puppy. So this is the Measles. I know. Aspen's down there, but she's probably not going to get up here because she's shy. All right. Want to go back outside? I know. All right. Thanks, everybody. That was a kind of part 2 of my explanation of that, just to kind of explain things more and to hit some things I didn't hit in that long-winded video. So now we have an hour and a half of me complaining about stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll have more good stuff coming along, more stuff coming out in the new year, and probably some videos on how to replace all the stuff that was on the chopping block, and we'll have to wait for some of it too. So I imagine that they'll be, usually when they discontinue a certain type of ball, it means that they're either working on or getting ready to release another type of ball to replace it. We'll see what happens with the Rubicon UC2, but on paper, it's got some Astro-ish tendencies or familiarities there. So we'll see what happens. Thanks everybody if you're watching this. If you watch this live, thanks for joining me. And if you're watching this later on a video, thanks for joining me. May the stripes be with you. And the webcam actually worked well this time, so it just doesn't like coffee.